everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if this is the first of my videos that you've seen. I'm Blue and I like to talk about figure skating. I'm really sorry that this video has been delayed. I've had quite a busy past few weeks and so I haven't been able to make a video. Today's video is a request that I got on Twitter and I'm going to be discussing some of the main skating steps and how to identify them. But before we get into the details, there are a few points to clarify first. Skaters have two skates, a right skate and a left skate, and I'm going to shorten these to L and R. There are also different edges, the inside edge and the outside edge. The inside edge, when the skater is on it, leans sort of into their body more, and when on the outside edge, they lean away from their body. I'm going to annotate these as I for inside and O for outside. And then there are different directions as well, forwards and backwards. And the forward is denoted with an F and back is denoted with a B. There are 8 different shorthands that I will be using throughout the video, and they're all on the screen now. The first step I'm going to discuss are brackets, and the ice mark is shown on the screen. In a bracket, the skater changes direction, going from forwards to backwards or backwards to forwards, and then they also change the edge from either inside to outside or outside to inside, and the blade turns in the opposite direction to the overall turn. On the screen there are some examples of clockwise and anti-clockwise brackets shown by Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer. The next step I'm going to discuss are counters. These are probably the most known from Yuzuru's triple axel entry, and so I have included that as an example of an anti-clockwise counter. In a counter, a skater changes direction, so from back to front or front to back, but they maintain the same edge throughout, so an outside edge maintains as an outside edge, or an inside edge stays as an inside edge, and the blade turns in the direction of the exit curve. You can see the ice mark on the screen. The next step are rockers, and these are quite similar to counters, but there are a few differences between them. If you get confused in the beginning, so do I. In a rocker, the skater changes from either back to front or front to back, so they change direction, but they maintain the same edge in the same way that they do with a counter, so those bits are the same. The difference between a rocker and a counter is that the blade turns in the direction of the entry curve in a rocker. Again, the ice mark and some examples from Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer are on the screen. This next one is probably one of the most well known, especially for those who watch ice dance, as it's the twizzles. Twizzles are a continuing turn that do not turn into checked 3 turns or a pirouette. Twizzles have a sort of corkscrew style ice mark, and you can see Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer again on the ice as the example on the screen. Sets of twizzles are elements in both the rhythm dance and the free dance in ice dance. The next step is a loop, and no, it is not the same as a jump loop. The loop maintains the same edge and the same direction all on the same foot, so it's basically almost like a small little spin, but it travels a little bit. You can see the ice mark on the screen, and you can see examples from Wenjing Sui and Song Han. The loop is probably one of my favourite steps. I think it just looks quite pretty. This next step has 2 names. It's either called the Choctaw or the S step, depending on where you come from and which skating club you're part of. In the S step, the skater changes feet, direction, and edge. So if you're starting on the left foot, you go to the right, or vice versa. If you're starting on the back direction, you'll go to the forward. And if you start on the inside edge, you'll go to the outside edge. Basically, everything changes. And the reason the name has been adjusted to the S step in some places is because, as you can see from the ice mark, it forms an S. You can have closed or swing versions. This next step also has 2 names, the Mohawk and the C step. Again, the skater changes feet with this step and the direction, but they maintain the same edge, which separates it from the S step. So a skater starting on the left will finish on the right, and starting forward will finish backwards, but if they are on, for example, the outside edge, as in the GIF with Tessa and Scott, then they will finish on the outside edge. It's called the C step because of the ice mark that you can see on the screen, and you can have an open or a closed conformation. The final step I want to discuss isn't counted as one of the difficult turns or steps, but it's still fairly common and fairly prevalent in programs, so I want to introduce it so that people can identify it better. And this is the 3-turn. The 3-turn is often used as the entry into a jump, particularly the flip or the salcho, as you can see in the GIF with Karolina Kostner preparing her triple flip. For the 3-turn, the skater stays on the same foot and they change from skating forwards to back or backwards to forwards, and they change their edge either from outside to inside or inside to outside, and the blade turns in the same direction as the overall curve of the turn. Another example of 3-turns that I haven't included is Javier Fernandez's entry to his quadruple salcho. So if you go back and watch some of his previous programs, you can definitely highlight the travelling 3-turn entry. I understand that this is a lot of information to try and absorb in a fairly short amount of time, so I've put a couple of questions up on the screen which can help to identify which step is being done by the skaters. So the steps that stay on the same foot are rockers, counters, brackets, twizzles, loops, and 3-turns. The steps where the skater stays on the same edge are rockers, counters, C-steps, twizzles, and loops. And the ones where the skater doesn't really change direction, well, these ones are turning, but they're not officially a change of direction, are twizzles and loops. An easier way of looking at it might be looking at what each step changes. So does it change direction, edge, or foot? Brackets change direction and edge, counters change direction but don't change edge, rockers change direction, twizzles continuous travelling turns, loops maintain the direction, edge and foot, S steps change foot, direction and edge, C steps change foot and direction but maintain the edge, and then travelling 3-turns change the direction and the edge. Again, I appreciate that this is quite a lot of information to try and absorb in a short amount of time. One of the big challenges that can come from trying to identify steps is in a step sequence, they're not always nicely sort of placed. It's not like I'm going to do a nice rocker now and then pause, then do a bracket or whatever. So it will take some time to be able to identify them, and identifying steps in real-time speed is very challenging. There are some annotated step sequences out there, so I suggest that you go out, have a look at some of them, or slow down some of your favourite step sequences and see if you can start to identify some of the steps. Maybe try and identify things like loops and twizzles first, because they're some of the easier ones, and some of the harder ones you can work up to. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'm very sorry again that this video has taken such a long time for me to upload, but life has just unfortunately got in the way. If you want to send me any suggestions for video ideas, you're welcome to through my Curious Cat or my Twitter, and they're both linked in my card in the description. I really appreciate all of the feedback, all of the views, comments, everything. I'm getting really close to my goal of 100 subscribers, so if you could subscribe, that would be great. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!